So I was just minding my business, doom scrolling on Twitter like often, when I get a notification from my good friend Hidden Xperia. He says, Eckhart's Ladder, I need the lore implications of this ASAP, and when Luke calls, I answer. His post was under a tweet from Discussing Film, who said, today it has been revealed that Watto actually isn't fucking dead, which, wow. For those who don't know, the internet was ablaze a couple of weeks ago after a preview of the current Kylo Ren comic came out, where it seemed to be revealed that the Lord Vader himself returned to Tatooine, ending his Toydarian slave master. We've learned now that that wasn't the case, or at least it doesn't seem to be. So the new comic being referenced is Legacy of Vader, the new limited run by Charles Soule. I'll say it, you guys know I am a hater when it comes to Star Wars comics, but kind of been enjoying this one. So to catch everyone up, issue 1 takes place almost immediately after episode 8. It sees Kylo Ren traveling to Mustafar and Vader's castle, where he stumbles across Vanna. And yeah, that weird sycophant attendant guy from Rogue One. Except he's now went like Bomar Monk meets Futurama brain in a jar. And as someone who still reveres Vader, he sees it as his duty to teach Kylo Ren the true way. That leads to issue 2, where Kylo Ren and Vanna travel to Tatooine. Tatooine, by the way, is looking awfully rough. I want to say like even rougher than normal, but maybe not. There do seem to be some people out on the street. Kylo Ren, of course, is out of his ordinary outfit. We learn somewhat interestingly that Palpatine kept detailed records when it came to all the information he learned about Darth Vader, and that Vanna himself eventually gained access to those records as well. That furthered his love for Vader. He saw him as a being who was forged through difficult times. And he sees Kylo Ren, of course, as the next step in that legacy. He takes Kylo to go see the Bunta track, and still, little baby Anakin is the only human to ever win the race. The most interesting part here is that apparently Ben Solo was not fully familiar with Anakin's backstory. He didn't know, for example, that Anakin and his mother Shmi were slaves on Tatooine. That leads us to a really interesting scene where Vanna is talking about, again, how Vader's life was forged through difficult times, how he rose above what he calls the blade slicing away his soul. He looks to Kylo and says, I would guess that from your earliest days, you too walked a path of pain, as Kylo, in his mind's eye, is thinking about all the awesome stuff he got to do with his family. And I do like the hint that Luke wasn't fully away from his family after Return of the Jedi. It still makes me sad to see only one child at the table, thinking back to Star Wars Legends, where there were Jason and Jaina, Anakin for a while, I guess only Jason for a while too, little Ben Skywalker as well. I miss the feeling of there being a new generation. Here, there's only one, and of course, we know what happens at the end. I do like this picture of C-3PO wearing a hat though. That's very cool. Anyway, Kylo does seem a little bit embarrassed. He's like, yeah, of course I did. I had a tough time growing up. He's attacked by some muggers, he wipes them out, and after that, he wants to take revenge for his grandfather. And that's where we see the scene with Watto that everyone was talking about. They travel to Watto's shop, which is just in terrible condition. I really wonder what's going on Tatooine. And we learn that the scene of Darth Vader taking out Watto was imagined by Kylo, because Vanna responds by saying, no, my prince, your grandfather was focused on other things. He did not kill Watto, but the Toydarian was not Anakin Skywalker's only owner. I like to imagine that this was not the case before they put this preview out, but someone got a very angry call from George Lucas, who only checks into Star Wars and makes sure Watto was being treated correctly. For real though, I know Watto was a slave owner and he was pretty terrible, but Anakin, despite all of that, seemed to have some connection to him. It's like half Stockholm Syndrome, half lack of a father figure, so I'm not really surprised that Anakin did not go back to kill him. Keep in mind that Watto wasn't really responsible for the death of his mother either. By the time she died, she had been freed already. For those curious, by the way, in Star Wars Legends, Watto's fate is also unknown, but he is not apparently killed by Darth Vader. What happens to Watto after this point is up in the air. I mean, I don't know how long Toydarians live, but Episode 1 takes place about 30 years before A New Hope. Episode 8 takes place about 30 years after, so let's just say 60 years. I believe it's actually 66, whatever. Watto definitely gives off 40-plus-year-old vibes in the movie, so if he is still kicking, that would mean he's 100. I don't know if Toydarians can live that long. To me, they don't seem to be a long-lived species. They're always high energy, they're flying around everywhere. Either way, Kylo learns that Watto was not Anakin's only owner and that he acquired the young slave from the Hutt Gardula. So he travels to go confront the Hutt. As he does, Vanna pulls out a little communicator, warns of Kylo's approach. When he gets there, he is easily able to slaughter the guards, including their rancors, pretty vicious, and he enters the Hutt's inner chambers. There, while he initially easily kills all of the guards, he's surprised by what appears to be a small creature which pulls his lightsaber while stating the Force is weak with you. This is another entry in the category of Star Wars creatures known as weird little freaks, with Gardula saying, "Did you really think after what happened to Jabba I would not take my own precautions against those who use the Force?" The thing also manages to knock Kylo out, and what is it? I don't know. I mean, Vanna clearly warned Gardula, so it's possible that this is a trick. It could be some sort of magnet or gravity field. We've definitely seen Force tricks used in the past. It could also be some sort of wild Force creature, like we've had things like the Nameless in canon or the Asalamiri. Maybe this is something which just naturally controls the Force without it being like a Jedi or anything like that. Or this is another survivor of Order 66 who's been hanging out with Gardula. I have no idea. Either way, Kylo Ren is knocked out, and the next scene and the final scene we see him in has him shirtless, hanging from a chain as he's been beat the hell up. I don't think Gardula actually means him any harm. Gardula says, "Your grandfather's story is your story too." So I think this is a method of training used by Vanna. That's why I'm believing that this little creature is not actually Force sensitive. It's some form of trick meant to teach Kylo Ren, and he'll come out of this more powerful and ready for the events of Episode 9. Either way, a somewhat interesting comic. I'm curious to see where it ends up. I will, however, have to wait for a while because the next issue comes out April 16th, which I guess is normal for a comic series. Again, I don't really do comics very much. It's kind of funny. In all my years of doing Star Wars YouTube, I've done like less than 2 or 3 dozen comic reviews. But that's all I've got. Let me know your thoughts on all this and more, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
When you were here before, could not look you in the eye, just like an angel. Skin makes me cry, float like a feather. Beautiful world. Wish I was a special.